Well, I think today on Reason Speak, what we'll do is we will be sitting here. There's three old men here, so we're probably talking about the good old times.
Hey, young fella, who you calling old?
Hello, Saint Tommy. I just want to introduce people who are here right now. This is Saint Tommy. He's my spiritual advisor, Saint Tommy of God. And then I have Stephen Hawks, my friend from for many years now on the Hangouts, who is more my age than your age. Bunto has arrived.
I found my hunting pants.
He probably might not. He probably won't be able to speak, but he might be able to speak intermittently or not. Who knows with Bunto? How you doing, man?
Okay. Mr. Stephen, are you going to put your pants on, or are you just going to let those ride for a while?
I will probably change my pants tomorrow, but in the meantime, I have a pair of pants on already.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't rock nude.
So do I assume then that Saint Tommy actually thought that Stephen only owned one pair of pants?
To repent?
Sure.
I don't know if I need to repent. I was just trying to show you my belt, because this is a good belt right here. This is the kind of belt my old man used to lay across my ass when I was a bad boy.
Oh, yeah?
Wow, that's the second.
Hello, Mohammed. Just to say hello. Mohammed from, what city are you in again?
I'm just putting away some of
We
this.
can't hear you.
Mecca.
No. It's in Pakistan. Lahore or Karamshar or, I don't know, Kabul. Shit, I have no idea. Alright, and Rick's here as well.
Rick.
Oh, dear.
Oh, look at this. I'm going to make some haters out of you motherfuckers. Oh, yeah, what's up? You don't like the Cowboys? Eat my dick.
Oh, look at that. A relic from the past.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the Cowboys. They used to be
Cowboys fan for a long time.
I'm going to make steaks out of me.
I have a grandson.
You have a grandson?
I have 2 grandchildren.
Congratulations. Hide your debit card.
Yes, my son has a daughter and a son. Benjamin and freaking Madeline.
Beautiful.
So your son has a daughter named Sun? Is that what you said?
I didn't say that, you tart.
Well, I'm retard of hearing. So what did you say?
I'm retard too. That makes 2 of us.
My son's name is Justin.
Nice.
Cool.
And Justin has a son.
He has a son and a daughter.
All right.
So I'm a grandfather twice over.
The Hawks line continues into the next generation.
Yes.
And
my daughter, who is roughly 6 years younger than my son.
Yeah.
Her name is Shannon. She's a great kid. She's doing really well in school. My son did really well. He joined the Army. That wasn't my choice, but...
Well, if you'd have followed in his dad's footsteps, he would have landed up in jail, right?
Yeah.
I've been to jail.
No, not jail.
Oh, sorry.
It's kind of like jail, though.
I retract that proclamation.
My father was a fucking lifer in the Army, so I know all about the Army life. For me, I never joined the military.
Wow. There are those, though, that grew up.
Generation, basically.
Bunto, I just wanted to say that your 3 breasts looked great. I had no idea that you sported 3 breasts, and wow, did they look full.
What are you talking about?
Well, Bunto showed a picture of himself earlier today, and he has 3 fully developed breasts. He's stacked, and he looked great.
See me your bobs.
It's the radiation.
That was you that showed that photo, wasn't it?
No, I don't know what you're talking about, Tom.
Oh, never mind. That was somebody
What are
else.
you
Showed
talking about,
a
dude?
three-breasted human being. I thought it was you. My apologies, sir. Excuse me.
All right, I only have a few garments left to fold here, and
So hey, I found this. Are any of you following the Greek and versus European Union fight?
Yes.
Okay, I found this today. Or some.
actually, I have a friend whose name is Magnus.
I found this. Hold on a second. I found this on my feed somewhere today. What do you think of this? Just saying, you know what I mean?
Well, as I was going to say, the friend that I have, Magnus, he's in Iceland, but he's Greek, and he's always posting fucking current affairs in Greece.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hip.
So, but you know what really pisses me off? In May, they say you've got until the end of May. You know, talks are going to continue until the end of May, and then we're going to get tough. And then June comes around, and okay, listen, we've got until the end of June. June the 30th is the deadline. If you don't pay, you're fucked. So June the 30th comes, and June the 30th passes, and now it's July the 5th. If you don't pay by July the 5th, it's a
Very reasonable.
Yeah, there's some kind of turmoil going on in Greece right now. The dictator that's in charge over there is fucking acting like a douche, apparently. From what
Sounds very sticky.
But you know.
So do you think that Germany should forgive at least a part of the huge debt that is owed to her? Do you?
I don't know. We fucking.
I kind of do.
After we bombed the shit out of Germany, we fucking reconstructed them.
No, I think the Germans should lead the way and say, "Hey, all right, you're in trouble, and you're Greeks. We understand. You couldn't help it, or whatever." And then lend out a helping hand instead of giving the old. If you don't do what we say, we're German. We'll, you know our reputation. I don't like that.
You know our reputation.
Hell yeah.
But you know what we're capable of.
Exactly.
You better comply. Or we will come over there and we will kill all your peoples.
They tried already. I mean, Germans invaded Greece in the Second World War. Germans ran or were in control of Greece, and they sent their Greek Jews to concentration camps.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Word.
Come on.
So,
so now Greece owes Germany what, $89 billion, or I don't know, maybe 100 times that, whatever.
You've got loot out the asshole.
The point is, Germany should say, forgiven.
Yeah.
The crowds have plenty of money, man. Their economy's thriving, unlike a lot of other economies.
I mean, the whole Greek system is a fucking mess, and they've probably lied to us and to their own people for many years. But that's not the point.
Could very well be as well. I don't know.
I hear they've still got running water though, so there's hope.
Maybe they could.
When it rains, apparently it runs. Yeah. But that's just my opinion, because on principle, on economic principle, I'd say, no, let the chips fall where they may. But I wonder what would have happened if George Bush, at the end of his last term, and Obama,
at the end of his reign,
had just let the banks. Let the market itself sort out the banking situation.
It probably would have been a hell of a lot better.
It would have been a hell of a lot better. Absolutely. And Greece might not have been in the situation.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Thanks, Obama.
Yeah. But again, we sit here, what's the word? In hindsight, we sit here as hindsight politicians in the armchair. Pretty much movie reviewing the past the immediate past history that we've just gone through.
Let us form a council of four to rule the earth with justice and economic freedom and religious tolerance for everyone.
Can I make an amendment?
Okay.
Is there any way we could make, a little round table we could all sit at?
Yeah, and let's hold the first.
No. If we have a round table, then I'd have to sort of sit on the chair on top of the table. Otherwise, there's no way for you to figure out that I'm the head of the table.
I'm willing. Hell, I'll go there.
Then let's go to a rectangular table.
Triangle table with Sidney sitting on top of the table. I can bear that. I'm down with that.
And I'm looking down at you. Oh,
It's okay.
But then that seems kind of regal, doesn't it? All right.
Regal, I don't know if I'd call it regal, but
Advanced.
yeah. You're a higher power, if you will.
A higher power. Ooh, now I like that.
Yes, sir.
That almost sounded
Hey,
like
I thought there was a movie about people who all of a sudden found they had these amazing superpower. What's it called? I want to watch it, and I haven't been able to figure out what it's called. There's a movie about... I can't remember exactly, but it's about like normal people who every now and again...
An inconvenient truth.
No, that's what's his name? That's what's his name? Your old vice president. I forget his name.
Invented the internet. Yes.
Yeah. Whatever. So the name of this movie I'm trying to find out is basically the one where people get superpowers.
Inglorious Bastard.
Heroes, isn't it Heroes? Something like that.
There it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Are you like proclaiming that you're a feminist now?
Yes, I am.
Me too.
Okie dokie. I mean, not that I have anything against it, because more than likely I'm probably a feminist as well.
So St. Tommy is proclaiming that I'm a feminist, or that he's a feminist?
Hell no. I'm just a feminist
reading
too.
your tag there.
Yes, no, absolutely, I'm a feminist. Always have been. Actually, I'm not. You see, the problem with saying I'm a feminist is much the same as the problem with saying that I'm an atheist. Because when I say I'm an atheist, that doesn't include anybody who's an agnostic. In my,
right.
It's so difficult. But if somebody wants to know what kind of an atheist I am, I say. If you don't know what kind of a feminist I am, I will say.
Well, you don't want to get Mike Owen in here, aside from the fact that he's a blubbering drunk, but he's the biggest feminist ever.
I've been drunk before. Oh, are you a Christian atheist, or just an atheist, Sidney?
Straight atheist.
I hear you. You don't swing over to Christianity. I hear you.
Oh no.
What about
we wouldn't have those sorts of people in this hangout.
I hear you.
You ain't catching me doing that crap.
Hell no, man. Not even in the dark of night, even. No.
Right. Not even when no one's looking.
That's it.
Nathaniel's here, just the man I wanted to have the point of view from.
Freaking non-believer.
Hey, Nathaniel.
Hey.
Baruch haba.
Yeah, just a second. Sorry, it's Partita. It's my religious experience.
I salute your religion.
Should we all stand or bow, or what should we?
I have nothing against anybody else's.
Have to listen and appreciate. It's Perlman playing the Bach Partita number 2, the BWV 1004. It's just fantastic.
Somebody's fucking wailing on that violin.
Yeah, it's Perlman. Hang on. There we go. I'll pause it for now.
I have been summoned away. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, you're very welcome. Good. See ya. Come back anytime.
This is my crucifix right here. You see what I got on my chest?
1968. Ban the bomb.
This is my crucifix.
Well, it looks more like a chicken foot.
One could say that.
Somehow that just fits. I'm sorry.
If you turn it upside down, it could possibly be a cross, but it's kind of contorted.
It's actually a guy who invented that, who I think he passed away like a year or two ago, and I read about how he ended up creating the symbol back in the 60s.
Mm-hmm. That was the band, the bomb.
Yeah, I think that was fucking
Sign.
what's his
Peace
name?
sign.
The guy who did a lot of acid fucking.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I think he like passed away like a year or two ago. They had written up a thing about like how he created it to honor him, etc.
Oh, I hope he wasn't killed by an IED or something.
No.
I hate irony like that.
I think he was like
The guy who used to experiment with acid. What the hell was his name again?
Huh?
Who?
The guy who used to experiment with acid a lot.
Timothy Leary.
Hunter Thompson.
Yeah.
Timothy O'Leary or one of those.
Timothy Leary. Yeah.
You know, he was an atheist as well. You know.
Yeah, I know. He lived next to my parents for a short while in Harvard when they were at Harvard.
Fucking drop out. And by drop out, he didn't mean like quit school. He meant drop acid.
Well, my parents were at Harvard when he was there, and
no shit.
Yeah, they had met him briefly. They didn't know him, nothing like that. But my parents are straighter than straight. But yeah, he
was like out there, man. Like,
yeah, my father was in doing his business doctorate at Harvard at the time when Leary was there, etc. He was actually good friends with a friend of my father's who was in business school with him at the same time, and so yeah, that's how they met. But very, very briefly, they didn't know each other or anything like that. But it would have been interesting.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Actually, I ended up knowing his friend's family quite well.
Weird ideals and all that whole stuff.
Well, I ended up knowing my parents, their friend who knew him. I ended up knowing him pretty well. Him and his family. They lived in Boston. He lived in Boston the rest of his life, and I ended up. I mean, they kept in touch all these years, etc. So I know them pretty well, but I never met him. Actually, I never met Timothy Leary. But yeah, I figure, it was a small community at the time.
Dropping some acid with Timmy Leary, because fucking, I'll bet you he was a trip. He did it. No pun intended.
Did he lose his professorship or something over it?
I think so. I don't really actually know all that much about it. I read up on him when I was a young idiot doing all that stuff for like, ages. But like, I never really got into the whole Timothy Leary thing very much. So I knew a few things, but just basically the very basics. Nothing in detail. I know some people have like studied him for their like papers and stuff, but that was never me. Yeah, that was never me. Like I said, I never met him. I just knew I knew a friend of his.
You knew of him.
Yeah, no, I knew of him, especially as a teenager growing up, etc. But yeah. But anyway, that's basically it. So what's the discussion about today?
Well, we actually had planned to have somebody, an atheist guy from Jordan, come in and give us the secular view from the region.
Oh, I think I've spoken to him before.
To Terry.
Yeah, I think I have.
It just so happens that you dropped in with the atheist view from the region. So.
Yeah, well, I had actually spoken to him before.
Yeah.
A while back. Yeah, and in fact I circled him. He's a very cool guy. And we had a very interesting discussion. Yeah, we had a very yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that was him. Okay. So yeah, I met him in a hangout, and we talked for a while. And it was very, very cool, actually. I'd love to see him in here. That'd be cool. I'd love to speak to him.
Well, it's the same time there as it is with
absolutely.
you, right? It's what, 9:30?
10:30. 10:30. Yeah, 10:30. Almost. Yeah.
Well, he must not have sort of been home or something. Maybe he's teaching.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, if you do get hold of him, let me know, because I'd love to speak to him again. He was very, very cool to talk to, I have to say.
He's an hour drive from you. Take a drive. Go visit.
Yeah, I don't.
Actually, you know what he said to me?
You could. I mean,
I know.
you've been able to since 1996.
He said he needs a visa to cross the border, though.
Yeah, you have to have a visa, but it's pretty easy to get.
Oh,
I mean,
so you can't just go on the spur of the moment.
I don't think so. I think you do need a visa. I think when you go to Petra from like a lot or something, they basically can give you like a day or two visa just for that at the border.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure because I haven't done it. So, but I know it's pretty easy.
Can I get a sabbatical on this one?
Huh?
Huh?
I just wanted to get a sabbatical.
A sabbatical? Well, why on the subject of sabbatical and the subject of international intrigue, we have Nathaniel with us. He's from Israel, Middle East,
Yeah.
And we also have Chaz Wald. Hey, man, Chaz Wald is here.
Hello.
From
the UK.
From
What's up with the new icon there?
He lives somewhere south of Scotland, is all I know. But he's with us today, also from Europe. So we got Europe. We got the boiling pit of hell, and then we have heaven, and I don't know, lower than hell, because that's the US.
Yay, heaven.
And then Rick, I'm not quite sure where you are, Rick, but
Can I just point out that you said that Canada was heaven, so does that mean Canada is imaginary?
yes.
Everybody knows Canada's not real.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's not a real country. It's a territory.
No, it's not really, is it? It's more just as kind of like a principality of.
It's a territory. It's one of those like 1800s style territory. You know?
It's the province of the city of Westminster, I think.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yep. It still sort of belongs to Regina.
Yep. But that's okay because she's cool. She doesn't take any of our money that we know of.
Monarchy.
I wonder how much holdings, economic holdings, she still has, or the monarchy still has.
The crown. You see, there's different parts you got to remember. You've got the monarchy, which is the Queen. You've then got the crown entity, which is sort of the Queen / Parliament, but it's what actually really owns everything. And then you've got the Westminster, who control the Crown entity, which is essentially the Treasury. So the Queen owns some properties herself as Elizabeth Windsor, Queen of England, and the Crown entity owns a large amount of properties. Like Buckingham Palace isn't actually owned by her; it's owned by the Crown entity. So
I'm still a little confused. All these different entities.
Well, it's
all to do with the Civil War.
Like here in the States, we got Congress, we got the House of Representatives, we got fucking the President, of course. Well, that's a fucking laugh. But anyway,
Well, here it's kind of funny because we got the monarchy, we've got the Houses of Parliament, which contain the Houses of Lords, the Houses of Commons, and I can't remember what the other one's called, but there is a third house. Do you know what it is, Nathaniel?
What did you say? I wasn't listening. What?
The third house within the Houses of Parliament. You've got the House of Commons, the House of
Commons, Lords, and no, I can't remember.
I didn't know there was a third house.
Yeah, there is, but it's not really that much talked about because the House of Commons is where most of the stuff happens, and that's ratified by the Houses of Lords, which goes back to the formation of the Magna Carta and what's his face, King John.
King John the cunt.
Yeah, King John. Yeah, King John the cunt. The useless one. Robin Hood times, that one. That's how most people know him. The one that they commonly attribute into Robin Hood legend.
Might as well be wearing a fucking skirt.
Oh, he probably was back then. What? That was after 1066.
Oh no! But the third house, technically, that's the Queen.
Was
Yes.
the crown entity?
Yes, it's the crown.
House of Regent or something like that?
Yes, the House of Regents. That's right. It's the sovereignty. So you have commons, lords, and sovereign. That's technically the third house, but yeah, they don't really act.
Well, they just have one big room with some thrones in it on a little stage,
right?
And it's like Black Rod, who is this guy who dresses in black and he carries this like big scepter thing. He'll go and he'll bang on the door, and if the doors are open, he'll tell them to close them, so he can bang on the door just to have them open them again, because God forbid we should forget the fucking ceremony, and he will call the House of Commons. He'll call the House of Commons to come and be with the Queen. And so he's like the Queen's pager.
You know what they say? God save the Queen.
Yep.
And he does every day, apparently.
I don't think God needs to save the Queen, because she's got guards with armed rifles stationed all around her. She's got bodyguards who would make James Bond blush. Yeah. And I mean,
God's actually killing the Queen.
Pardon?
God's actually killing the Queen.
If he's doing it, he's doing a very slow fucking job.
No, she's growing old and she's gonna die. She's killing her.
Yeah, and she's gonna die in another 10 years or 20 years.
She's gonna hold out long enough to take Queen Victoria's fucking record.
Yeah, she's gonna hold out long enough so that Prince Charles will have maybe a day on the throne.
See, as I remember it, there was talk about him after his marriage with what's her face. He's going to be abdicating the throne. I think he's even said that he doesn't want it, and I think that's why there's been such a rush to get William with a wife and some babies, because he's going to be king in about 5-10 years' time.
I think probably 10 years. I mean, look, the Queen Mum, she died at what, 100 or 101? I can't remember.
Something like that, yeah. I've never known a world without Queen Elizabeth alive. Or Queen Elizabeth II alive.
Not many people alive these days can.
No, wait, we're not supposed to speak about religion, but politics are okay.
I believe
it's
so.
Not really. This isn't really.
Let me go check the rules of the hangout.
The Queen isn't really politics. It's more just discussion of institution.
The Queen is like history. Yeah, it's history.
Yeah, it's more. And actually, my first bill ever, my first money ever had the Queen on it. It was a £5 note. When I was young.
Did it? How far back are we going? Did it have Elizabeth Fry on the other side?
It had Elizabeth, her portrait on one side, I believe, and it was what? It was in the 1970s. It was a brand new bill.
Pre-decimalization bill.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
do you know what pisses me off? We have £10 notes with Charles Darwin on them. Yeah. Probably one of the greatest Britons to have lived. Yeah. And I think if you're going to commemorate anybody on currency, it should be Great Britons. And but now they're going to be replacing him with fucking Jane Austen.
Yeah, I heard.
Some vacuous author. I mean, don't get me wrong. If there was a female Charles Darwin out there, I would be all saluting them going on the note. But it's not commemorating equal work.
Yeah, if it was like Marie Curie or something, I could be down with that. But
or Amelia Earhart.
Earhart, yeah, Amelia Earhart. Yeah, I mean, I mean, Jane Austen, fine, she was a good author, and I mean, fine, but it's not. No, I would go with like a scientist, and there are some scientists who did discover this. And some mathematicians too. It's not impossible to find them.
What about that guy that just died, or that was just kind of heroicized? They made a movie out of him. Turing.
Turing, or the other mathematician you're talking. I thought I
was talking about Alan Turing.
Okay, yeah, Turing, yeah.
Yeah, the guy who just died was somebody, I forget his name, the beautiful mind.
The beautiful mind guy.
I would be all up for putting Monty Python on our money.
Oh,
Yeah.
Too.
I know.
Could you
that
imagine
was-
that, like John Cleese, maybe?
Well, they were
Ministers
knighted, weren't
by
they?
Christopher Hitchens, maybe on a note
Yeah.
as well.
Well, Hitchens was never knighted, but I think Cleese was, if I remember correctly. He might have been knighted.
You
How
know
about
what? There's a
Sir
guy
Alex
on Facebook.
Ferguson?
I don't know if he was. Let me actually look that up. Hang on. I'm
Would you
What
like
they
curious.
should
Sir
do?
Alex Ferguson on your money, Chaz?
No, we don't. He just owns quite a large share of it.
He is a
Let's
he
see
is
if
a
he
he is a
was
sir.
knighted.
He is knighted.
Yeah. So is Ian McKellen. Patrick Stewart. I'd love to have Jean-Luc Picard on our money.
No,
I'd
he wasn't
happily
knighted.
that.
Oh
Sean
yeah, and
Connery?
he's from Yorkshire, so that would be nice. Yeah, a bit of North representative.
And you could
With
just
some money.
fucking sit up in Parliament and be like, fucking make it so #1.
Do you know what we should do? To celebrate gay marriage, we should have a special note which has Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen sort of holding hands, yeah, as they strut out of a church, like dressed in their stuff, and they should have like Hitchens and Monty Python and stuff sort of stood around them, pointing at the church and laughing, as they sort of like skip past the big picture of Charles Darwin.
what
And
you
I think
gotta
that would be
do-
the greatest note ever.
No.
I think other countries would just buy our money.
I think
simply on that note.
Hitler and Churchill. Okay, together.
Hey, can we throw a few bushes in there?
Yeah, and the Bush and the
Let's get
daddy
bushes
the
in
daddy
there.
Bush and
There's a whole fucking shitload of them fuckers. We
No,
got
I
Jack
think Churchill.
Actually, we'll
should
take
be on-
Winston
Bush,
Churchill out of there.
George Jr.
I think Winston Churchill should be on like.
He's
important
going
note.
to be. He's going to be on. I think the £20 note will.
Oh, good.
5
Good.
on the 20.
He
With this
deserves-
whole thing with them moving to Jane Austen, what they've done is, the Mint was thinking about, doing a new set of notes anyway, and there was a lot of feminist uproar saying that women should have better representation because out of the 4 notes that we have, there's only one woman, and which is Elizabeth Fry on the £5 note. Now there's still going to be only one woman, but she's on a £10 note, and that was a victory for these feminists. They've increased the number of women on the notes by nothing.
Yeah, by 0.
And the thing is, all money has a picture of a woman on it. It has the face of Elizabeth Windsor.
Yeah.
You won't see one woman on any of our fucking monetary. Well, except for one time they had what's her face?
Didn't they have a coin, some chick
Yeah,
coin?
They had, no, but they had the $2 bill.
Coin, and it was.
They had the $2 bill.
The $2 bill as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you might be right. It was what was her name? Not Betsy Ross. I want to say Betsy Ross, but I don't think that's right.
Oh no, but no, it wasn't. It wasn't a woman on there. I don't think so.
Oh.
I thought there might be, but I can't remember.
They did. Yeah, they did a coin. It was a quarter, or a half
Let's
dollar,
see.
or something, or a dollar coin.
I thought there was. Yeah, I know there was. What's her name? The Native American princess.
Yeah.
Who went with. It was either Pocahontas or I can't remember the other one. Yeah.
But, I know.
It's still. I think it's still actually in circulation, but like.
They are
The fact is that like nobody uses coins in America. It
and the
just-
$2 bill did have, I believe, a Native Indian on it, a woman. You might be
Yep.
right
It
about that.
might.
Susan
Yeah.
B. Anthony, there it is.
I
Susan.
do kind of agree with the way America does their money. They celebrate sort of important presidents and
Yeah.
important historical figures to the makeup of that society, which is why I support Charles Darwin being on there. I think
No,
he's
I support
most
Henry
profound.
Henry VIII surrounded by a pile of heads.
Oh yes,
That
Henry
would be
VIII.
awesome.
Henry VIII with a
Full
pimp
army,
stick.
one of
Hey,
those-
why don't you guys put Boudica on your money?
Yeah,
Both
yeah.
said-
Actually, Boudica would be a good one to put on the money.
Yeah.
Pronounced Baudelaire.
Whatever.
Is that right, Bodicea?
Yeah, whatever.
Well, okay, sorry. I've
Oh,
been
you
I'll take the Latinized version because
I've heard the name from 3 different podcasts
might
pronounced.
as well go fucking with the Dalai Lama too.
How did you say it again there, Chaz? Buddhist?
Bodicea.
Bodicea.
Yeah.
Okay, Bodicea.
Yeah, but she should kind of have a place on
I think so.
She in a sense started part of what made England become England. So, in a sense I think she deserves that. And even though her rebellion was totally crushed, but she did pretty well for a while.
Utterly smashed.
But yeah,
I mean,
but
wasn't
she did pretty
raped
well
and have
for a
her
while.
tits cut off, I believe.
She did pretty well for a while, and she was absolutely right to. I mean, she had a just cause,
Yes, but don't forget, she was up against the Romans. They had the numbers, and that just doesn't work.
Well, no, it wasn't the numbers. Actually, the Romans were outnumbered 3-1 on the battlefield where she lost. The reason why she lost is they charged the Romans.
Right, but they had the tactics.
And the Romans had some quite good technology in shield.
It's called the shield.
Armor.
Yeah, it was called the tortoise formation with the shield, and they got. I mean, if she hadn't charged their formation, they might have lost, and that would have actually been the death of Rome at least for a while in England. I mean, they might have come back, but it's doubtful. So,
do you know what she should have done? She should have done the thing that Hannibal, the Carthaginian, did.
Yes, the pincer move. Yeah.
Yeah, where he
flooded
the flank, he flooded the flanks and pushed them all because they used to walk in grid formation. When they pushed in tight, they didn't have room to retrieve their swords, so they just had the option of surrender or.
Yes, but Chaz, these people were barbarians. I mean, clearly Romans were superior in intellect, and they won. It's just that simple.
It's the only time that Italy's really been able to make that claim, and it's only because of it nicked shit off the Greeks. I mean, it went under a bunch of. You know what happened? There was an island full of poncy, gay intellectuals, and they got beaten up by the dumber, tougher kids, who were the Italians. I know. Funny this. Follow me. And the book smarts helped these tougher people win a few more wars. Until some nutcase took a bunch of elephants over some mountains, lost, loads of men, but not one elephant. And
no, he did. He actually did lose elephants too.
No, I heard he didn't lose any.
No,
he did. Tons of men though.
No, some of them actually froze to death or fell off the mountains, etc. They did have some elephant deaths, but obviously far more people. Yeah.
Mainly trying to stop the elephants from falling off things.
I don't know. I'm not an expert.
You must feel sorry for the one. There must have been one general in that country who went, do you know what? I bet they're going to come at us with giant, huge grey monsters that none of us have seen, with these huge, long trunks.
No, they knew what. The thing is, they knew what elephants were. It's just that most of them had never seen one, but they knew what they were.
But there'd be one going that most of us haven't seen, but these big grey monsters and everything like that. And nobody believed him. Everyone thought he was a bit fucking touched. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I bet when they saw him rock up, they just probably looked at each other and went, ah.
Yeah, well, I'm not an expert on the Punic Wars. I used to know quite a bit about them when I was younger, but all gone now. But Hannibal was, he kicked the Romans' ass. In fact, 260 some odd years later, the Romans still remembered Hannibal, still used Hannibal to frighten their children. I'm not kidding. Hannibal, the only time the Romans were ever terrified, literally terrified of losing Rome, was with Hannibal. It completely fundamentally changed their psyche forever. So
also, when they also started to fear it when you started getting the push of like the Germanic tribes trying to move further into Europe.
But they didn't fear it the same way as when they feared Hannibal.
They feared losing lands though, and obviously the pressure shoring up there would put on its other colonies.
Right, but even the sack of Rome, in terms of psychological damage, you could say wasn't as great as what Hannibal essentially almost did to Rome, because it was the first time that they had ever lost. I mean, Rome was, until Hannibal, Rome was this unstoppable force. It was fighting, like the Britons, barbarians who had no tactics, none to really speak of. I mean, they had...
Well, no, it was just, you just ran at each other with weapons, and whoever was left alive won the battle.
And Rome was this slow-moving, unstoppable tank that it just crushed anything in the way. I mean, they lost a couple of battles here and there, but overall, nothing really detrimental. I mean, it was a completely new phenomenon. I mean, their tactics were absolutely, brand spanking new at the time. So, yeah, it was. So when Hannibal came around and defeated them, and I mean, like, really crushed them on the field, that was something terrifying for them, because they had never experienced it before.
Well, yeah, I mean, when they got crushed in, and I bet that was fucking. Well, we did not see that one coming.
Oh yeah,
because he was still out. He was outmanned as well on that battle, and he only had a small amount of his force, like meeting them on the opposition. So they
I think it was actually
confident.
He was actually outmanned, and he completely defeated them. I mean, there's no question. Norman Schwarzkopf apparently used the same maneuver in the first Gulf War. Pretty much every tactician has tried to use that kind of a maneuver since then, in a sense. But yeah, it's I mean, that really did it for the Romans. They were terrified, and the only reason Hannibal didn't take Rome was because, well, nobody really knows, actually, because he was waiting for something. He was waiting for possible reinforcements. He wasn't sure. I mean, he could have walked into Rome a few times.
Didn't he become kind of a friend of Rome in the end? He was sort of...
No, they hunted him down for 10 years after he lost his final battle. 10 years they hunted him down until he killed himself before they...
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, before they got him, he killed himself.
Okay.
But it took them a long time. He was literally the boogeyman. I'm telling you, 250 years after his defeat, they were still scaring children in Rome with, Hannibal will come and get you, that sort of thing.
I know actually very little about the Punic Wars yet. Got to get there.
See, I like history from like the Roman era onwards, so just like the tail ends of the Roman era.
Oh, I like it.
I like
it like 500 BC and onwards.
Yeah, where you've got like the brief periods of sort of Wotanism. You can see it in the way our country's formed with the names of counties and the architecture from the time.
Rome was the greatest civilization that ever existed. That's my view.
Until this thing called the British Empire came along and had more land than they did.
No, that's in my view. Okay, Rome was never actually. Rome basically just evolved in the end. So all the West is, in a sense, an evolution of multicultural Rome. So my view is that the British Empire, the American Empire, these are all still...
Yeah, but Nathaniel, you must admit our technology in some ways backslid from the Roman era.
I don't doubt. I don't dispute
well,
that.
I mean, like they had like running water toilets. They had good sanitation. They had
bathhouses. For God's sake, free. Yeah.
Yeah. They had great farming practices. For instance, what they would do is they would use 2 fields. They'd plant in one, and then obviously they'd take the crops from that and they would compost over it and turn it all over. And they'd leave it for the next year, and they would use the other one to grow their crops, so that the other one would have a year to replenish.
Yeah. Crop rotation. I know.
And all of these sorts of things, which in large scale did sort of dwindle away in practice.
In a sense, but put it this way, civilizations rise and fall, but they don't necessarily disappear when they fall. They can continue on a low level and then rise again. And to me, that's what Rome did. Because the sack of Rome didn't actually destroy Rome. It wasn't like Rome went away, in 410 when Alaric came in.
But its military empire dwindled significantly.
Oh yeah, I'm not disputing that. But Rome was more than just in the end, towards the last, I guess after about 100 or 150 years after Augustus, in 150 to 200 BC, Rome was more than just a military empire. It was a concept. It was, in fact, most people who fought in the Roman Empire were not Romans. They had almost no Romans in the army left. It was almost all locals. It was all people who believed in the Roman ideal. And so when the center of Rome basically, deteriorated to inconsequence in a sense, the Roman ideal still lived on, but by then Rome was an ideal. I mean, by then the Senate had not been a power in over 250 years. The emperors were no longer of any consequence. The seat of power had moved to Byzantium. But it was still Rome. These people thought of themselves as Romans. So there was no point at which people stopped being Roman, woke up one day and said, well, we're no longer Romans. That didn't actually happen. Even in Britain, it took a long time after Rome left in 410 or whatever it was. 450, I think it was. I can't remember. But they even then, a lot of Britons still considered themselves Roman and thought Rome would come back. That's actually, some theorize, where you get the idea of the beginnings of the Arthurian legends.
But no, that's based on some very tenuous.
No, I understand. I understand, but remember, for a long time,
which is trying to make it a few hundred years earlier than.
Right, at Mount Baden, it's all. But it's just an example. The point is that people did not
turning Articus, I think it is, into Arthur.
Yeah.
It's possible that part of the legend might have been embellished upon by obviously people who were familiar with the legend of Articus, and facts might have been put in there from this Articus guy's life into the Arthurian legend and sort of mixed, or. Right. They might have had very similar lives, but Arthur was from a time of.
I don't even care if he's real or not. The point is that the desire to see Rome come back, because they still thought of themselves as Romans, was very strong for generations afterwards, and it was.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that there weren't people who still thought as Rome as loyal. There is reasons why. Christianity became quite a big stead, where the Holy Roman Empire got a hold in England.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons was still a lot of people had loyalty to Rome. It was more of a kind of we came in, we owned you, and now we want to be friends with you. It became sort of more similar to what the Commonwealth is. We used to own a bunch of countries that were subjects, and now they're kind of like their own entities who we're besties with.
Right.
And one failed experiment, which we just won't go into.
Right. But I know, I agree. But the thing is that, to me, Rome never disappeared. The ideal of Rome lived on and continues today. In a sense, Rome is Western civilization, and in my mind, there's no doubt about it. It took on various forms, but Rome was always adaptive.
I would also argue, though, that especially in sort of the sort of the typical sort of Western Europe, sort of like France, England, sort of Germany, that sort of area. Mm-hmm. A large amount of that culture was influenced by the Germanic peoples, because
but
they were
remember,
more recent, and I think a lot of their beliefs, such as the way we saw Odin and Thor translated in the way we saw the God of the Bible.
Yeah.
As
It's very
this
clear,
man
actually.
sort of thing, and it's the same with the Romans and sort of like the idea of sort of Zeus and what's their one? Is it Jupiter? The Roman version of
Yeah,
Zeus.
Jupiter.
Yeah. They started to, you know, sort of shape this god in this sort of like Zeusian style role, and give it this kind of like those sorts of characteristics.
Right,
And
but
we did
they
the
were
same
always
thing with sort of like this Odinian idea of God.
well, but they were always adaptive. I mean, in the latter half of the emperors, the Germanic tribes were already the Roman Empire army was actually made up most of Germanic tribes at that point. So the influences of the Germanic tribes were already predominant in Rome itself. You had Germanic leaders taking on Roman names and living in Rome. There was a special ceremony where they would adopt a Roman name, usually a Romanized version of their original name, and they would be considered Roman and have full Roman rights, and they would live in Rome. So you already had that happening for hundreds of years before, essentially Alaric came around and the other Roman tribes. I mean, Alaric was Roman himself. I mean, he was a Germanic leader, but he had lived in, he understood Rome. He understood the Romans. I think he had fought with Rome at one point. That happened quite often. So I mean, that's why actually they didn't destroy the Pantheon when they sacked. They didn't really sack Rome. I hate to say that because it's not true. They didn't actually sack Rome. But when he took over Rome, they spared the Pantheon and they spared all those buildings because he had a fondness for them. He loved them. He did not sack Rome because he hated the Romans. He basically took Rome for completely different reasons, which I don't have to get into right now, but it was entirely political. He wanted to rule, essentially, and give his people more rights in the end. And the Romans they weren't at that stage yet. But they had been working up to that stage for quite a long time. I mean, even with slaves, they had actually been giving more rights to slaves more and more over the years, and to the point where they were at the point where they were almost going to free all the slaves. So it was a gradual progression of a very multicultural society, which Rome had always been for quite a long time. In fact, Rome started as a multicultural society. If you go into the legends of Romulus and Remus, the foundation of Rome, the foundation of Rome was made up basically. It's like Australia. It's like where everybody sent their criminals because they didn't want them around their tribe, so they sent them to this new place called Rome, which essentially took everybody in. They said we're going to take everybody in, and that's how all the great families actually started, where these tribes essentially were founded at the foundation of Rome, and they'd come from all different places in the area. And so, Rome started out as a multicultural society, and while they became quite aloof for a while and separatist and elitist for a while, they eventually, did away with that over time and started becoming more and more multicultural again. So to the point where being Roman really wasn't an identity of your tribe, which it used to be. It was to the point of you basically believing in an ideal and being a subject of Rome. So in my view, we still are Romans in a sense. Anybody in the Western civilization tradition is still a Roman. If Rome was an ideal, which I think it was in the end.
When did they split? When was there two emperors, like an East and a West emperor? The tetrarch. What the hell did they call it?
Yeah. with Byzantium and
Yeah, when they had like 4 rulers and one of them.
it was I think in the 300s.
It was actually, it was probably Constantine who did that, who brought that in, I think.
Yeah, Constantine the Great did well. He brought Christianity in, but
Maybe, or the guy after him maybe brought. I don't know.
Yeah, it was in the 300s. I just can't remember the date offhand right now. But yeah, at that point, Rome had evolved far more into just one city. It was an ideal. It was you know, anybody who was Roman.
It was an identity.
Yeah, it was an identity. Absolutely. At that point, it was an identity.
They were the Borg.
Yeah, in a sense, they were, but in a good way. I would think the Borg.
Ah.
Yeah, they were. I mean, I think it was a good thing, though. That's why I think it was the greatest civilization that ever existed, and in my view, still existed today in a loose sense.
It was a lot of shame that the Roman Greek sort of empire fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd love to know, sort of like, imagine you got rid of that, would get rid of the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
I mean, these people were already pretty much going to the midpoint of and the end point of the Renaissance on a lot of certain subjects. So, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't just be a sort of like 1,000-year gap between like the Romans and the what they called the Renaissance. It would be you know, an extra few hundred years as well.
Well, it was inevitable.
Catch up.
Yeah, but it was inevitable that that this would happen. It literally, there was no other way for it to go down. The way that Rome expanded, you know. Again, at the height of their power, they were so powerful because they had technology which nobody else had, and they had tactics which nobody else had, and they had discipline which nobody else had. But that changed. The playing field got leveled a bit, and the fact is that they were so big that, given the technology, the limits of technology during that day, you couldn't. It really wasn't viable to hold it, and given the fact that there was so much power concentrated on one single person, any mistake is going to pile up at that point, and they did. The mistakes piled up one after another, and there was just no way to get back what was being eaten piecemeal from the edges of their empire, to the point where they no longer had the tactical advantage, and they no longer had the numbers, in a sense, to get it back, and they no longer had the tactical edge which they used to have. So it was just inevitable that this would happen. But also politically, there was no other way for it to go down, because of the way that Rome was run at that point with the emperors. I just don't think that Rome, the way that they ran business, could have ever, survived for, forever. Basically, it had to deteriorate at some point. The issues are really complex. There was farming involved. Rome was kind of a black hole, which at that point sucked in everything, but produced nothing to go back out. And there was just one mess after another created, and the fact that so many people wanted that power just basically ended it all eventually. It split the empire, and at that point the empire itself is in decay, and there's nothing to be done about it. There were a few points in history where they could have extended it, they could have retaken it, but you know, the people at the top were just, at that point, were just idiots. They were power-hungry idiots who didn't care about Rome itself. It was just about, you know, being at the top. That's why you have so many, you know, lasting only like a year or two or three before getting offed, and then the next person comes in, you know. There were a few instances. I mean, Marcus Aurelius, probably the last great emperor of Rome, in my view, in a lot of people's view. He had moments of brilliance, and he did actually re-solidify the empire somewhat, but, you know, what came after him was a total disaster, so there was just no way.
So Marcus Aurelius re-solidified the empire after the civil wars that were going on between all the generals and stuff?
Yeah, actually he did.
Okay.
Yes, because at that point he came in and he really knew, and he lasted, what, 10 years, I think. Yeah, Marcus was 10 years, something like that.
Well, I think he died like a natural death, didn't he?
No, he was actually killed, but it was an accident.
Okay.
Yeah, it was actually not intended at all. It was a total disaster. And I think he was assassinated, but like yeah, if I remember correctly. But it was like people were shocked. Everybody was shocked.
I'm shocked now.
Yeah, it was. I mean, but the fact that he died was shocking, because they really saw him as the new Rome, in a sense, and they really worshipped him for what he had done for the empire. He was a really, really good emperor. But again, everything after him was just an utter disaster. But you see it at the very beginning. I mean, with Augustus. Augustus was the first emperor, fantastic emperor. Tiberius was an utter disaster in the end, but less so than, good old Germanicus, Caligula, then,
oh, well, he was just insane, though. That was the thing.
No, he was, but that, a lot of people still, I mean, if you watch I, Claudius, you get the idea of exactly how people still believed. Some still believed in the Republic, especially Claudius. Now, it's a dramatization by Robert Graves, etc., but if you read the original Suetonius, you understand where Claudius was coming from. He was very shrewd, and he had survived quite a long time being, the stammering idiot, but no, I mean, he would never have seen himself as emperor. There was just no way. I mean, he had never plotted to become emperor. It just happened that way, and he had turned out to be a really good emperor overall. Hell, he conquered Britain. He's the one who conquered Britain. So
you talking about Claudius?
Yeah, Claudius conquered Britain. Julius tried 3 times and failed.
Oh, he crashed.
On the shores.
On the shores round Dover, actually, I believe it was, on the rocks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, Julius did it the second time. He came back.
Yeah, no, he is right. Julius came back a second time, and he landed on the beaches of Deal, but he didn't actually conquer.
Right. No, he didn't conquer.
He settled a small amount in the southeast. Which...
Yeah, but it didn't take. And
he didn't. It didn't become a province until
they didn't even fight anybody, actually, because the locals basically ended up trading with them.
Right.
And that was basically
that was the first time I think he went back with stuff to trade.
Yeah, essentially. It was Claudius who conquered Britain. Of course, he didn't conquer it fully, but he's credited with it.
And failed. Huh? Caligula gave it a shot, but his soldiers didn't want to cross the sea or something.
No. It was Claudius who gave it a shot, and his soldiers didn't want to cross the sea. He sent his slave, a freedman, who he really respected, a Greek. I can't remember his name offhand, but his Greek gave a speech and basically said, if I, a mere former slave, a freedman, I'm not afraid to go to the ends of the earth, then you, the Roman legions, should not be afraid either. And he actually motivated the soldiers into not rebelling, because they were going to say no, they were going to rebel, and he actually saved the day for Claudius.
Yes. Then now I remember,
Yeah, so he's essentially the reason why they actually decided to go. Because remember, to the Romans, this was like this was literally terra incognita. I mean, the stories of Julius were from 100 years before. They were legendary. They didn't. They were talking about a land where people painted themselves blue, and there were all sorts of monsters, and maybe we'll fall off the edge of the earth. I mean, they really were afraid. And it was cold. I mean, they were from Italy. They weren't, from up north. So they were terrified. They weren't going to actually do it. They were in a state of rebellion when, what's his name? Pogma? I can't remember. Anyway, his freedman gives that speech and turned the tide. Now, Claudius didn't actually conquer all of it, but he's credited with the conquest of Britain, because he essentially, once he landed and they pushed in, they were there to stay. That was the real start of the conquest. It was, I think Titus who really ended the conquest, finished it off finally, but I can't remember. But Claudius had died by then. But he was given the honors. He was given the triumph for it. So and in history, yeah, they were, from the time of Claudius up until whatever the time they left, 390, 400, whatever it was, I can't remember. They were there. So lasted some 350 years or something. It was quite a while. It's a long time. It's longer than the American, the country of America right now. That's a long time. You don't have people in America not thinking of themselves as Americans. It's 200 some years into the experiment. Imagine another 100 years. So yeah. Anyway, I don't want to bore everybody with history, because I know people will be watching at some point.
I'm kind of a geek. I love this history, so
Well, I do too.
I'm going to throw up some maps and. Oops, that wasn't what I wanted. I'm going to screen share, and just start sort of clicking around a bit, maybe, and see where we can go in terms of putting some relativity. All right.
There we go. Yeah, I see it.
Okay, if we're going to talk about this stuff, let's just put maps here and see if we can sort of make it more visual. Let's start off with this one. What's this one? AD 395. This must be when they've...
That's the Russian past right there. Yeah, that's the
partition,
Byzantine Empire versus the Western Empire. Yep.
Right. Oh, that's AD. We want to go to BC. We want to go to ancient. There we go. The Roman Empire at its height.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that.
I mean, yeah, remember, that's huge. Given the technology of the day, that is frigging enormous.
Massive.
And not only that, that does not include certain protectorates or certain basically alliances they had on the outskirts where they made deals with people, so that those tribes wouldn't necessarily be Roman or think of themselves as Roman, but Roman allies, for example.
Right. But look at this access they have to this the sea here. I'm not quite sure which one it is, but I bet you it goes right to China somewhere. I don't know my map well enough right now to sort of fill in the blank. What we got here? What's this?
I can't see. It's very small.
If you click View Image,
yeah,
that will bring it up in a web page, and you can actually then just zoom in on just that image.
The Romans, by the way, were aware of China. They had some very small trade going back and forth, but it was very, very small. They were aware of China.
It would take ages. Well, they would have met the Mongols as well.
There you go.
The Mongols
No, the Mongols
expanded out.
were much later. Genghis Khan was time of Marco
Yeah, but
Polo.
the pre-Mongol
Oh yeah,
tribes.
yeah. Well, that's in a sense that's who the Vandals were. In a sense, they were the people from the steppes, the horsemen from the steppes. Those are the predecessors, in a sense, of the Mongols. You know.
Yeah, this is a good map. The orange is what when Julius Caesar died, 44 BC.
Yeah.
In 14 AD, when Augustus died, is the green. They had that much, and under Marcus Aurelius, they got the rest of it. I get, which is 180, and that was almost to the height of when they were at the height of the powers, or perhaps it was they must have lost this Mesopotamia since then, because in the other map, it's there's that whole link to the sea down here was
all the way to the
occupied.
Caspian, I believe. Yeah.
Interesting. See what else we can come up with.
Yeah, most people don't know, but they had conquered Arabia, actually.
Yeah.
Must have been friggin' hard as a Roman legionary in Arabia, I can tell you.
Map of ancient Rome. Oh, there's Carthage. There's Carthage. Right there, that's what?
Carthage is
modern day Tunisia or something?
Well, do you know that Carthage
Carthage
actually became a Roman
Spain as well, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Carthagena was Carthage was like the capital, but it sort of stretched through bottom parts of Spain and large parts of the north coast, including Tunisia.
Well, yeah, Carthage actually, but when Rome conquered Carthage, everybody knows about the destruction of Carthage, but what they don't know is what Rome did after. They didn't let it just be a wasteland. They actually rebuilt it. Carthage became a very, very, very important Roman city in later years. In fact, it became one of the breadbaskets for Rome itself. It was very, very advanced. A while later, it had a very sophisticated Roman culture, and the governor of Carthage was actually very, very important. That was a very important governorship in later years. So they didn't actually just leave it to go waste. They completely rebuilt it. And they had it was an amazing city at that point. They rebuilt the city from scratch, and it was well respected and very, very powerful in its own right later on.
See this map here? 264 BC. They own this much of the peninsula, right? And that took them a couple of hundred years to conquer all this stuff, right?
Yes, from 752 or 732, something like that, the foundation of Rome, BC to.
That's 500 years to get.
Yeah,
just
but
this.
think about that. Think about that for a moment. Think about how long the Roman Empire lasted. It lasted longer than any other empire in the world. It lasted like 1,000 years, literally.
Correct.
Name me another empire that lasted that long. It's inconceivable. Like,
the empire of secular TV should be around for at least another 1,000.
There we go. But think about that. I mean, there were people who grew up with legends of Rome because it was so far distant in the past that that essentially the world was born with Rome for them. Yeah. They didn't know any other world without Rome stretching back as far as the legends would go. That's how old Rome was.
I'm interested in these. See these borders here with Scotland where it stops because they couldn't figure out the Scots, and also the Rhine.
No, it's not that. It's not that they couldn't. It's they didn't want to.
Why not?
Because of the large parts of Scotland are treacherous and mountain and just rocky, and so there's no farming quality to it.
Yeah.
and the people that live there are a touch on the damage side. And, you know, they're kind of best just to go. Yeah, okay, mate. You just stay over there a second. I mean,
let's just build this wall.
It's best to treat them like White Walkers in Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
you build a giant wall.
Well, that's where he got it from. Essentially, that was the idea behind the White Walkers.
Wasn't there two
I've never
walls?
seen the Game of Thrones, so you've lost me already.
Yes, there were actually. There was one further north. I can't remember the emperor who put it up, but it was.
Was it Helena's Wall or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah. It was about 100 miles north of Hadrian's, right?
Yes, it was abandoned soon after. It never stuck. They literally just weren't interested in spending the money and keeping, Scotland basically Roman. There was no point to it. They had so much, and Scotland provided to them very little of value. In terms of what they were looking for, at least as far as they knew. So, it just wasn't worth their time.
The only thing that Scotland would be useful for is if they got the ability to extract gas from the North Sea.
Yeah, of course, but again, they didn't.
That would be it.
Yeah. I mean, they could have, but it just, why? What's the point? At that point, they said, look, but that wall is actually the first time that Rome had put any sort of limit on the size of their empire. That was, in a sense, shocking to them, but also reassuring, saying, you know what, there's a limit to it, we know where we stand, and we're here and no further. And so that was actually the first time they ever put a limit, a declared limit, on the Roman Empire. That never happened before. So it's a pretty big event.
Do you know what I've just got in my head is that Eddie Izzard bit where he's talking about Caesar, a small can of dog food for small yappy-type dogs. I don't know why that just jumped in my head.
That's right, the gourmet cat food that here.
Oh, man. But yeah, look at all the other stuff that they had, and it's just huge.
And then they just fell in on the weight of their own corruption.
Essentially, it was more than that. But
the Holy Roman Empire was the start of all the problems with Italian politics.
Yeah, no, I agree. I absolutely agree there. But it was more than that. It was basically, Julius Caesar had basically set the stage for their downfall a long time before because of how he basically used his army, which was completely illegal under Roman law. When he crossed the Rubicon, that was probably one of the most shocking things in to Romans at that point in history. They were utterly stunned. He knew that he had. That's why it's such a momentous occasion.
That started the Civil War period, didn't it?
Yes, against Scipio.
Yeah.
Not Scipio. Oh God.
Come on.
Yeah. Pompey. But the fact that most people have heard the expression, but they don't understand why it's important. The reason it's so important is because Julius Caesar essentially broke a cardinal rule of Rome that had ensured the peace of Rome for literally centuries before. And he knew it, and he knew that if he had lost, it not only would have been all over for him, but probably would have been all over for such a thing as the emperor. The whole idea of an emperor garrisoning troops in Rome. It was completely illegal, and everyone respected it. So when he crossed the Rubicon, it completely changed Roman history forever.
They did have another civil war period, didn't they, as well, where they had Florence and Tuscany.
No, Augustus versus Mark Antony. That was when Augustus basically took the emperorship. You know, that was not his declared intention, but that was clearly his intention. They decided, you know, the triumvirate decided to split the Roman Empire into 3 parts, and then it became Augustus versus Anthony, and then or Octavian at that time, and Augustus later. Octavian was his name before he became Augustus. You know, so yeah, but it was started by Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar essentially, when he crossed that river, he changed Roman history forever. He changed the path of Rome forever.
Do you know that? Is it true that they've never really actually found this river?
What, the Rubicon?
Uh-huh.
I don't know.
That's the sound of some furious Googling.
Yeah, it's here. It's the, well, yeah, okay, presumed. I guess I've never actually, well, I've never seen it, but we know about where it was. Could have dried up, I suppose.
Just like we know about where what's it
called?
Atlas was. Atlas, right? Not Atlas, Atlantis.
Atlantis. No, this is real, because it was a real border to Rome. They wouldn't have flipped out over a mythical border. This was a real border to Rome.
So he was what? He was a consul or something of a particular area, and what exactly was all that about? You know?
What? Who? Julius?
Julius, or is he a proconsul? I mean, he must have.
Julius was one of the 2 proconsuls who ruled Rome. The other was Pompey. Now, right. Julius had amassed a huge amount of debts while on his campaigns, and in fact, if he hadn't crossed the Rubicon with his army, he would have been arrested and tried for treason when he came back for all sorts of reasons. He had broken so many laws on his campaigns, Roman laws, that essentially the upper classes, he was hugely popular with the low classes, hugely popular.
He's no good commie then.
Yeah, no, he gave them money, etc. He was a great briber. He had bribed everyone. Yeah, no, he did.
Oh, hell yeah.
Absolutely, it was bribes. But he was a criminal, essentially. And so the only way for him to return to Rome after his 10 years was up was for him to come in with an army and say, you're going to arrest me, you know, you and what army? Because there were no armies in Rome. That was the whole point. So, you know, Pompey was his really, really good lifelong friend for a long, long time. Julius had married his sister to her, no, his daughter. He had married his daughter to her, and then she died, and Pompey eventually turned against Julius when he saw what Julius was really going to try to do. Oh, Chaz left? Well, maybe he crashed or something. But anyway, so yeah, it was essentially Pompey was swayed by those around him. For many years, he defended Julius and said, no, we're best of friends. Julius would never do something like this, etc. And then he was eventually turned, and Julius realized he had turned against him before Julius went back. And then Julius himself realized there's no other thing that he could do if he wanted to save his skin, which he did, other than basically take control. Now, it's debatable whether he started off that way, but it's quite probable that he had that in mind at some point since a while until he actually did it. And the thing is that had he done it, if Pompey had not turned against him, he probably would still have taken power, but he he wouldn't have had to fight Pompey. But in the end, because Pompey turned against him, he had to fight Pompey. And Pompey lost on the battlefield and was assassinated when he arrived in Egypt.
Right, and his head was sent back.
Yes, yes. No, it wasn't sent back. Julius went to Egypt after him, and
and the Egyptian king, whatever, gave him the head.
Yeah. So it was, and he had the king killed basically, eventually. But you know, because I don't think he would have wanted to kill Pompey. But he still saw Pompey as his friend. He still saw the ability to forgive Pompey and smooth things over and let Pompey retire. I mean, Pompey was a hugely respected general. I don't think Julius wanted him dead. I think he still wanted him as a friend. There was no reason for him to kill. I mean, Pompey had lost on the battlefield, but he had still been this great general, this incredible ruler of Rome while he was away. He had been his lifelong friend. He had been, you know, related by blood, by family ties, because, you know, Julius married his his daughter to him. So I think he still loved Pompey as a brother in many ways, and would have forgiven him, and you know, might have come to some sort of arrangement. I don't think he wanted to kill him. So I think he was actually quite shocked when Pompey was killed, was assassinated. I mean, he had no problem assassinating other leaders, but barbarian leaders, they weren't the same to him. They were, you know, less than human in a way. Pompey was, you know, like a demigod status in Rome. There's no doubt about it, you know. So yeah, that was probably quite shocking to him to see him that he was assassinated. You know,
I'm shocked. The assassinations in those days. I mean, why would anybody want to become a leader in those days, knowing that death is inevitable? Like, quick death is inevitable, because you know, did they really think they were the ones not going to get killed or something?
I don't think it was any different than us. It's just that they lived in a far more brutal society, that if you weren't at the top, you were going to suffer. And if you were at the top, you had a chance of surviving a lot longer, in their view. Right. You know, so yeah, it's just plus, I mean, it's not like there were tons and tons of assassinations before that. I mean, there had been some, but it wasn't like in the later years of the Roman Empire. Right. And Julius was a very forgiving sort of man. I mean, he forgave Brutus, for God's sakes.
True.
And you know, Brutus turned around and assassinated him eventually. But the fact that Brutus, his adopted son, went against him, and then he forgave him and took him back. He was a politician. He really did prefer to be surrounded by friends rather than enemies, or like killing his enemies.
Yeah, but those guys never gave a quarter for the most part.
Well, I don't know.
Enemies.
No, it depended, because look, when Caractacus, I think his name was, when he threw himself on the mercy, but proudly so, of the Roman Senate after Claudius had conquered Rome, had conquered Britain, they spared his life, him and his family. They gave him a stipend, and he was allowed to live in Rome. Now, this is a rare thing, but Claudius was, again, another politician who liked to rely on compromise. He did not rely on just killing people left and right. I mean, he did have some people killed, but like executed straight out. He didn't resort really to assassination. He was not like Tiberius. He was not, well, Sejanus really, but Tiberius.
But look at this map. The campaigns of Julius Caesar from 58 to 45 BC. How many years is that? 7 years?
It's not presenting right now.
It's not?
No, it's not.
So what do you see on from my screen?
I see your icon, secular TV. Now I see you.
Okay, I'm gonna try again.
You're presented again, yeah. Yeah, now I see it. Yep.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Look at the look at this guy. Okay,
Yeah.
he was basically over. This is basically where he was probably the proconsul of Gaul or something, right?
Yes, he was.
And then he goes. He tries to get into England. He fucks that up. I guess he doesn't get very far when it comes to getting into Germany.
No.
But when it comes to getting into Rome and fighting his fucking civil wars against Pompey, look at all this shit here. Look, he's just
I know. They chased each other. Well, he chased him around the world, the known world at that point.
Yeah, he chased him to the end of the end of the known world. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Holy crap! And that's in 7 years. All this.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that. But he was a masterful tactician. He just had a lot of luck too, frankly. Julius Caesar really had a lot of luck.
Well, for the most part, a lot of these
anybody who takes Latin as a class will have to read the campaigns of Julius Caesar. It's standard. It's like reading the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, all right.
Everybody who takes Latin has to read the Gaulish campaigns. So you can see, I mean, it's you're told in advance multiple times, and you see it for yourself that a lot of it is self-aggrandizement.
Yes.
But even through that, he was a very, very good tactician, but you also realize that he had a tremendous amount of luck in various points in his life on the battlefield, or usually before the battle begins. He just was a very lucky guy. Julius is like Napoleon in a sense. Napoleon also was very lucky in a sense. He used to believe in luck. He used to believe in his lucky star, literally, in the sky. Such was the case with Julius, but Julius thought it was more like the destiny of the gods, etc. The embodiment of Rome, essentially.
I think we should do more history shows.
Yeah.
Do you is your field of study history, or is it just your hobby?
It was for a while, actually, for a long while. I was liberal arts with 2 majors of history and English. So I just didn't do a master's or PhD in it, but yeah, I never stopped. I love also the Crusades. I love the history of the Crusades.
Mm-hmm. I'm very interested in the ancient history, ancient world before 500 BC.
I studied. Yeah, I studied from the Greek through the Romans, essentially. When I was in grade school, that's when I started studying this stuff. We had a teacher in my school that was our history teacher, and she was strict. I mean, you read about how kids are fucking coddled today. She would slap our knuckles with a ruler type of stuff.
Yeah, we had that.
And okay, so you see that map right there that you're showing, okay? At one point in 6th grade, every one of us had to draw a map of the ancient world of the Roman Empire. And we had to do it in exact detail. If there was a single thing misplaced or wrong on the map, she gave us an F. And there were a lot of us that failed, actually, on our map.
You should have given her a big C for cunt.
Yeah, well, she was a bit of that. Yeah, Mrs. Taylor, I'll never forget. 30 some years after, or 35 years after, I still remember a fucking name. But I remember exactly what she looked like. I remember how
I also
hard
remember,
she would wrap her knuckles.
I remember the names of all the teachers that used to sort of terrorize me. Yeah. And I forget the names of those that were nice to me.
No, I remember some of them who were nice, but mostly I remember the ones who terrorized us. But but yeah, so I mean, back in 5th and 6th grade, I started studying this stuff literally. This was the first history I truly remember, and to me, it's the greatest history. But I think it's the greatest history, even if I take a step back and examine it from an objective sort of view, because I mean, there's a reason why people revered Rome for so long and still do. You know, it's not just me thinking it. You know, I mean, there are. It truly was, in a sense, the greatest empire the world had ever known. In terms of what it produced, and granted, a lot of it was stolen from other people. But the fact is that Romans were the disseminators, and they didn't stop just disseminating. They eventually came up with their own ideas, their own thoughts, their own ideas of politics and all that. It's not that they just stole them from the Greeks. I mean, they started that way, sure. They were literally just a bunch of bandits at the very beginning, but they evolved into something greater than that, much, much greater than that. And thanks to people around them. As I said, they were literally the first multicultural empire that I can think of. And that's why they lasted so long, and that's why I think they still last today, in a sense, and because it was an ideal. It became an ideal. Yeah.
Well, they didn't rule by fear, really. They ruled by.
Well, they did. No, I mean, they did a hell of a lot,
to a certain extent, but to a certain extent, they ruled by integration.
But yeah, a lot of. I mean, it's true that it is true that there were a lot of people around them who eventually just said, "Look, there are a lot of benefits to being Roman, and let's just be Roman. Right. Let's swear allegiance to Rome and be part of this, you know, great empire. And this will be, you know, it won't be like the Romans, like we're outside the empire. We'll be the empire. We'll be part of the empire, you know. Right. And so there were a lot of people who did think that way, because. Remember, it's not like later religious conquests with Islam, etc. The Romans let you worship whatever the fuck you wanted to worship. They left you with your own customs. They didn't care as long as you paid tribute to Rome, like everybody else, like they themselves did. They themselves had to sacrifice to the emperor, to Rome, etc. That was part of their thing. So the Jews actually got an exemption from that. You know, the Romans aren't exactly fondly remembered by the Jews, but the Romans actually exempted the Jews from sacrificing to the emperor, because they realized after a while that there's just no way we're going to get these guys to sacrifice to the emperor. They'll be Roman in every other way.
So when it comes to the Jews, it's actually the zealots, the Jewish zealots, that fucked everything up for them, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, most Jews were Romanized in a lot of ways. I mean, it's not like, you know, I mean, they were really, being in Judea at the time really sucked, because the king that was, you know, King Herod, who was working for Rome at the time, was really just crazy, frankly. I mean, he was just a madman. So that wasn't any fun. But, you know, in terms of like Jews and living in Rome or in other parts of the Roman Empire, they weren't like persecuted or anything. They were just part of, you know, it's like Thracians living in, you know, the Roman Empire, or, you know, Athenians living. I mean, it's not like it wasn't any different in a sense. They were a bit different and odd because they believed in one god, whereas everybody else believed in many gods. But that was basically, you know, that was something people could live with, as long as they didn't cause trouble, which most of them didn't. It was the zealots, essentially, like you said, who basically screwed it all up.
Right.
You know, I mean, look, I'm not excusing. I mean, sometimes Roman behavior was terrible, and sometimes they did break their word, but it was fairly rare overall. They did really invest a lot in keeping the peace, and I mean, they did actually really want that. It was much more profitable. Rome was about profit, you know. And the reason why they took places was for profit, most of all. So the people behaved themselves and wanted to be Roman, fine with them. They just joined the ranks, you know. You know, it's a hell of a lot less costly to have the local people basically become Roman and do Rome's bidding than it is to station guards there, entire cohorts around the clock to make sure that, that things are running smoothly. They just would assign a governor to most places, and the local people would take care of business. If the governor was any good, which, some of them were pretty good, they would just get to know the way local people did business and let it continue that way, and just basically send the profits to Rome. That's how it worked. Where you get the Italian mob.
Well,
anyway.
I was thinking, I was thinking Sicily seems to, first it was kind of settled by Greeks to start off with.
Yeah.
And throughout the ages, all the bad shit that's been happening on Sicily.
Yeah.
No wonder we've got the mafia from there, and
oh yeah, yeah.
It just
the mafia has nobody really knows how the mafia started. There's different theories about it and different ideas where the name even comes from, but the big families in Rome at the time of Caesar, etc., were like mafia families in a sense. You had a patron. That's what the mafia really was originally. Is you had patrons and of the local peasants, etc., the ones who would protect you, etc. That's what the big families did in Rome. It was the same thing. That's why you had the Civil War, actually. It was, in a sense, it was no different, but they had laws that they did follow. So unlike the mafia, they did have rules and standards. I'm not saying that they weren't brutal, but they were a bit more organized than the mafia in a sense. They were a bit better than the mafia, and they did have a grand vision of keeping the city going and keeping the empire going. It wasn't like just for the family itself.
Yes,
I mean, there was some, but it's 11:45 at night, so I'm gonna have to call it.
That's
quick.
okay. We've gone way over over our time zone, so I'm just going to stop this here.
Okay.
I'm going to let you have your closing statements, if you like. Anything you'd like to plug? Anything you'd like to say about? Anything.
I'll say something in defense of Scotland, even though I think they are kind of touched more today than ever before due to their politics. There's one thing that they did really still do really well is make single malt, and I'm going to have some before going to bed tonight. So in defense of the Scots,
go Scotland, yeah.
Taste of heaven right there.
That's what I say.
Yeah.
Scotland forever.
Yeah.
There's no true Scotsman. Well, except for me. There's no other true Scotsman. Good night, Nathaniel. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there you go. That was our first Reason Speak episode that went on for an hour and 3/4 of history. I'm going to get so many likes. Whew. I hope Google's got the super calculator already to go. So today's history lesson was brought to you by Nathaniel Harari, student of history, obviously. I hope he's going to be back, and I'd like to cover more in-depth, small little chunks of this ancient history time. Much like I've got over here on this map. I just want to share it with you before we go on this little map here. This one here. Check it out. Emirate of Sicily. This is in the year, I don't know, 1000, says 1000. I'm assuming it's 1000. Yeah, it's got to be 1000. No, it's 1000 AD. Lombardy. Look, Venice, all in the green here. Check it out. And look at Croatia. Look what Croatia's shape was back in what's it now? 2,000, 1,100 years ago. Wow. This is all new to me. Like, there's the Capio. I've been watching Spartacus, like I mentioned earlier. The champion of Capua. See, so now this puts a whole bunch of this. Now looking at this map, I get a whole new. I get a whole new understanding of how the whole of Europe is, or the Italian relation to Europe is all put together. Tuscany, Lombardy, Swabia, and then Bavaria. Yeah, I've heard of all these places. Salerno, but these like principality here, a duchy there, a marquisate there, a kingdom here. Like, what the hell is all this bullshit? The duchy of an emirate, and then an empire. Holy moly! So this is the boundary of the Holy Roman Empire. Goes like that, and then like that, and like that, like that. The Holy Roman Empire. So everything outside over here is outside of the Holy Roman Empire. So that actually goes down to here, just below Rome. Wow. Wow, so that's the Holy Roman Empire. So Venice was not part of the Holy Roman Empire. And Capua and Benvenuto and none of these guys. Interesting. Syracuse, there it is. On Sicily, I had no idea that Syracuse was in Sicily. Wow, I just love that kind of stuff. Anyway, everybody, does anybody want to come in? Tell you what, I was going to shut this down, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the join link into the, where should I put it? I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put it into the YouTube, onto the YouTube page that you're all watching, right? Can I do that? I'll put it into the detail section, the join. I'll put it right at the very top. Watch this. Well, not the very top. I'll just put a whole bunch of join or whatever. Join the on hair hangout. On hair. Okay, I'm gonna post a link. How about that? How do I do that? Okay, I'm gonna post a link. I really hope it works. I'm sure it will. Hey, the link is on the YouTube page right now. In the just go to the YouTube page, click show more. It says on 8 Air Hangout, which is obviously a big, huge. I don't check my typing. Exposure, and I'll keep it going for a few more minutes. If you guys want to join, I tell you what, I'm gonna spread the bit around. Oh, how about there? Hey, come. Oops. Join me here. It's coming. Because if you don't come in, I'm gonna get mad. You know that when you talk for a long time, you get kind of parched. Why? Oh, I guess because you're always, as you're talking, you're always emitting water vapor or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, unfortunately. So for all you guys who want to join, say hi. You can do that on the YouTube page. Actually, the typo is bugging me. I'm gonna go fix it. Out of it. Oh, God. Well, tell you what. Don't join the on-air hangout because I'm going to stop it right here and actually go out on. It's a nice day here in Vancouver. I do want to end with a thank you for tolerating this. If that's what you're doing, thank you for enjoying this. If that's what you're doing, but either way, I do urge you. I do encourage you to please become a patron of Secular TV. We try our very, very best to provide entertaining content for primarily the secular community out there, which includes you. And the more resources we have to work with to grow and provide more diverse content, the better entertainment and the better shows you will receive. So if you are already a patron, thank you very much. If you become one soon, thank you very much. Right. Okay. What can I plug? I'll tell you what I'm going to... Oh, I am getting into video editing. I'm sort of still scared. I'm going to start off with trying to sort of create an intro to the show. I have all the content I think I need. I just need something creative to happen and the courage to go and learn this video software because I know the learning curve is steep, but the more time you put into it, the less steep the curve is. You know, I'm a procrastinator and blah, 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 blah. So thanks for watching. I'm Sidney Winston, also known as Ask an Atheist. Both names, both Sidney Winston and Ask an Atheist are YouTube channels of mine. Nothing much there. I'll tell you when there is. Secular TV, as always, at the bottom. All the links are there. Be secular, be safe. Peace out.